do our best to keep our voices fairly low here, along with some ambient music being played closer to the players. So Jesse has opened up with Indao, scoring 26 points.
I see immediately that Matthew has Musical.
Yes.
And he has Leucomas.
Leucomas is going down fairly fast.
So that's got to have Matthew feeling pretty good to get down a double-double to start the final game of a tournament.
Really good start for Matthew. That's the kind of stuff you want to have go for you on that first turn of a championship game here, especially one that means so much.
He got it down so quickly too.
Non-elite through that L in Leucomas, Jesse has in his rack.
Yeah.
The C is not quite in the right spot for Neotenic, which is another option. Jesse does have it lined up on his rack. Taking a little bit of time to think about the play before deciding on it.
Yeah, he's got it all queued up and ready to go. And I believe non-elite does not take an S, so it's not a particularly dangerous play in that regard. And it's exactly what he needed when you have somebody bingo early and worth so many points like a double-double. The first thing you want to do is bingo straight back, and that's exactly what he was able to do. 68 points for that, so he has a total of 94.
So essentially they are dead even in score. Jesse's drawn a couple of nice letters here. Potential scoring material. Not a whole lot of effort. Next couple of turns.
So we'll get that score up for you again. Jesse scoring with a 94 now.
And Matthew has BGG ANVE on his rack.
Now we've got Matthew's hair. Just when we thought we had the hair situation all taken care of. Yeah, GGNV, not a good situation, especially without an I to play through for the ING. But it's scoring tiles nonetheless. You can't bingo on every single turn.
There's a nocturne from Chopin playing near the board right now. I'd love to be able to play Scrabble music like that in a tournament. But I'm certainly not envious of the high pressure situation here right now.
I'm looking over at the Collins final game, which has also gone to a fifth game. Peter Armstrong actually missing a few bingos and playing a phony, and yet way ahead, 462-309, and I know it's further along than that. That's just where I am in watching it. I got to it late. Missed Broadish and played Inditor instead of Dinitro. Inditor is only good with a C in Dictor, Inditor. But did miss a bunch of other plays that scored a lot. Dave getting down Anti-Acne. But Peter able to get down that phony Inditor along with Siltier and Veneers.
The illustrious Brian Capoletto has suggested Avenge through the E in non-elite. And that appears to be the option that Matthew is going with.
Peter cannot pick a bad rack.
Peter's having a fantastic run over there, so it's pretty much all but official that he will be the 2015 Collins champion. Congratulations to Peter.
He missed the Collins only Graples, Graples, but it doesn't matter because now he's got Blaster on his rack. I'm not sure that he's got places to put stuff, but those are racks that his opponent is not getting, and he has Labrettes, and Flu is available for him to stick it on. And I think as Peter plays, that we will very clearly have. There he goes. He plays Stabler at 534, 372. I believe the game is probably over, actually.
Yeah, it looks well over, so congratulations, Peter.
Yeah, and Dave's going to play out. And a final score of 542 to 408 gives Peter Armstrong the championship in the Collins division, and we wish him absolute mazel tov. Congratulations for not only winning this extremely difficult tournament, but to defeat Dave Wiegand in 5 games.
So Jesse's made a nice play of Dixie. It's nice not just because it scores well, but he does have an H, assuming he draws a good vowel to capitalize on that spot, or the A spot in Leucoma's next turn for some easy points. Matthew, meanwhile, has got a few clunky letters here, but he's also got he's got the most versatile letter in the game on his side as well.
He doesn't have any 7s or 8s, so he'll be looking definitely to rid himself of likely 2 of B, F, and G, probably the B and F if he can play Fob somewhere. Or he'll play Bog where the opening for Dixie was created.
Interestingly, Dixie has been challenged, and the reason for that is because Dixie is Collins only, as far as I know.
It is not acceptable.
Yeah, Dixie is a Collins only 5.
How would we spell it out? Do we spell it out? Do we have Dixie at all?
We just have Doxy.
We just have Doxy. And we have Pixie. Multiple spellings of Pixie.
Yeah, so Dixie is just Collins. A little bit of book confusion here from Jesse, and he's going to lose his turn.
So a double played against him and a phony are not the way you want to play your final game of a tournament.
Jeremy, I actually knew what that acronym was as soon as you typed it out, just because we were doing our best Siri Tilicaratni impressions just last night, actually. It's one of my favorite ones to do, actually, when I'm impersonating Scrabble players. I can't say it on the air, unfortunately.
Okay. I'll have to get the scoop after the game's over.
Yeah, so Matthew will look at options like Fog over where he just challenged the word off. B-Fog, possibly, on another spot. And Jesse's stretched back, looking a little well,
it seems, did you mention, I'm looking at the game, so Fob off of Leucoma's. Do you like that one? Saving AGE blank, which seems pretty ideal to me.
Yeah, I'm liking that. Nice solid balance.
We could also do D-Bag off of the D. Off of the D, we could play D-Bag and M, Ba, A, S, and G, saving OF blank. The concern about playing Fob saving AE, G blank is that you are saving 2 vowels to the one consonant, although the blank can, of course, be considered a consonant as well. I don't think Matthew needs to worry too much about the triple row. He'll score a lot more playing off of that triple letter next to the A in Leucoma's.
So it looks like he's seriously considering Fob. Just making sure there's nothing in there to be found before making his decision.
No, he's decided to play it there.
Ultimately opting for Fob in the same spot. Quite a reasonable play.
29 versus...
Given what he has left over, I'd say it's pretty reasonable.
Just a 2-point sacrifice.
Leaving some excellent future
29
opportunity.
points to make it 155 for Matthew. No, he picked well.
So now Jesse's just got to shake this off.
Hag Ride.
Yeah, Hag Rides for sure is one particular.
And in 2 different places, so he will definitely be bingoing, just a matter of where. Hag Ride above non-elite, the NON, will fit very nicely. And we're getting some Disney music in the back. I think I hear Tinkerbell.
That produced a smile from both players. Good to see Jesse is still smiling, especially after that terrible loss of equity in turn there ultimately. Is keeping in good spirits. We like to see that.
Matthew also can play Big Head. And that, of course, that S is available as well. So he gets to, he has the luxury of choosing over multiple areas in the board. So it's not a matter of if, but when, what. Probably reasonable.
So he's playing that for a decent score there. That's good.
29 points.
Then besides Hag Ride,
so 123.
A suggestion from the chat is Big Head as well.
Big Head, and Hag Ride allows him to overlap non-elite over 3 tiles, whereas Big Head only allows you over 2.
So we're going to see a pretty big lead for Matthew here shortly, and Jesse not sitting too pretty.
And he picked up some more vowels. Yeah.
He's got 2 E's and 2 I's
It's
doubled
actually,
up.
oh, it's
or
an F.
EF,
It's an F. These are these intermediate racks that we sometimes talk about in Scrabble. We're always, of course, looking for the big bingo, using up all our tiles and getting a 50-point bonus. But it's important to have these intermediate plays as well, where you score big with your tiles that aren't bingo prone.
So Big Head is going down on top of non-elite. It's a nice
80
play.
points, so he's at 235.
Perhaps with Hag Ride, concerned about offering a little bit too much back. Just with that A right above the double word score.
It would have given him another 5 points to play Hag
And
Ride.
Matthew's drawn very well. He's got Z and A for the spot on Luke Combos to score even more. If Jesse doesn't play there, this is going to be running up a huge deficit very quickly. And this is just really a matter of one move that's changed the swing of this game so fast.
You can't make any mistakes.
Just one play, sometimes that's all that it takes. Jesse's got Défi lined up from the D in Dow.
That's lovely.
For those of you French-speaking, that is a word for challenge, and that pretty well defines the position Jesse's in right now. It's a serious challenge to get out of this position.
At least he'll be taking that spot, the Z spot, so he will not have to suffer that 60-plus point play, and he will himself score, so that'll be like a 100-point swing. So definitely taking that spot is in his huge interest. And then the question becomes, what does Matthew do?
I would imagine he would think about something like Matza, possibly, under the AN in the top of the board as a possible scoring option.
He has zags as well through the G in Big Head.
Not going to count Jesse out just yet. It's dire, perhaps.
Way too early. Still 3 S's and a blank to go. Still haven't seen the Z, haven't seen Q. These are all high-scoring tiles that could really net you quite a bit of points.
For sure, though, if he wants to be in this game, we'll have to send all that energy through the air. But on the other hand, for the Matthew fans out there, this would be very good news.
You're kind of torn, aren't you? You're
I
a
am
West
torn.
Coast guy who's also a Canadian. You're.
I love both of these guys. They're both fantastic players, great people. I consider both of them my friends. I really won't mind whoever wins the series, because over the last week they both played fantastic, and I know they're both some of the best that we have representing us.
Jesse's going to have to make a decision soon, because he's going to need that time later in the game. He's down by over 100 points. He's going to need time if the tiles don't flow. Other things he might be considering?
Very good. He's gone for defeat. That keeps him in the game here. He's not going to know it right now, but that's saved him from what would most likely be certain defeat at that point.
35 points to give him 158.
Besides Matza underneath Anna, also making Man Adu and Matza would score a lot of points for Matthew this turn.
I would put Matza definitely up on top rather than below, for sure. Do I want to save a U? Or does he have 3 A's? Yeah. Do I want to save 3 U's? I'm not so sure. AU. But I like Matza up there very, very much. I think one of the things Jesse was also thinking is, do I really want to block that S when I need to catch up?
We've had a fantastic suggestion of Hazmat from the H in Big Head. It's a nice play.
Same tiles, yeah. Although I think Matza's probably going to score a bit more. 45 versus 40. Playing the same tiles and not opening the board. So I'm a big fan of Matza on top of An and Do from Big Head. And it's not too dangerous. Yes, Adu does take an F in front and a D. 1 F is already gone, and 2 Ds are gone. And the Z is going to preclude a big play on top of it, because there's no 2-letter words starting with blanket Z.
So Matthew is considering being clever to keep on building spread.
Hamza.
He's considering Hamza holding on to an
S.
S to give himself scoring opportunity later.
It's
He's
not a bad
also
play at
seen
all.
Hazmat.
Hamza does take, aside from an S, does take an H at the bottom, which Jesse happens to have, but he does not have, he does not have a 5-letter word ending in H. If that D was a G, he would have lay, L-A-I-G-H. That would be a big turn of score right there.
Matthew is ultimately choosing to play Matza on top of Big Head. It's a nice play. I think there's not really any need to be cheeky at this point, just continuing to
just keep scoring,
build spread and make it difficult to come back.
To score and not open the board that's his mantra right now. Score, don't open the board.
And minimizing variance, because by playing Hamza, there is that possibility Jesse has a really big play with an S and or H. He doesn't need to give up that kind of opportunity. Just building spread and continuing to keep his lead and forcing Jesse to score well all the time is the best thing to do here.
Hamza is the kind of play that Jesse needs to play right now. It's not the kind of play that Matthew should be playing right now.
Matthew's got a nice rack.
That C was unfortunate.
He needs an O, I think. Contused is the one I can think of. I'm not sure anything else is going to work for him on this turn.
That's the only bingo, period. Now Jesse's rack, if we can recall, is ADEHILO. It's such a lovely rack. It's also a non-go. Well, that's not a non-go. A non-go in Scrabble vernacular is a bingo that will not play. Well, maybe this is a go non because it's a play that won't bingo.
Yes, we need to come up with some term for that, I think.
I think we just did.
Yeah,
No,
going on,
not the
sure.
best. I think we can do better.
We have some of the best wordsmiths here in the world, so I'm sure we can come up with something that works.
Right now, board's quite good in terms of being able to bingo, but not worth a lot of points. You can obviously bingo quite easily to the eye in and down, top or behind, on top or bottom, but you're not going to score a lot.
So Jesse's playing as few tiles as possible, which is good when you're behind by this much, trying to groom his rack so he can potentially play all 7 of his letters in one turn and get those needed bonus points.
He scored 26 points for a total score of 84.
Jesse is shaking his head and visibly somewhat disappointed. He's pulled UI from the bag. Not what he needs right now. Lucky for him, Matthew has a somewhat interesting setup there on his rack.
I have no idea what you mean.
And Matthew, in contrast, would ideally like to play as many letters as possible, because the sooner he gets to the end of the bag, that is no tiles left, the more likely he is to naturally keep his lead and hold on to that victory.
It's very tempting. If he didn't have, it's almost better if Matthew didn't have good tiles right now, because then he could start clogging up the board plays rather than trying to groom his rack for another bingo. But as you can see in Scrabble, there's just so many things you have to think about, different games you have to play based on your situation in the tournament, and not just expect to play the same strategy game every single time. Every game is a different strategy. The C goes so nicely with that H that's on the board. It's something he's probably wanting to keep. He doesn't have good vowels to make 2-letter words with words that are already on the board. So it's not like he can chunk up the board making overlapping plays.
I'm seeing a suggestion of emu and wood, or wud, pardon me. That scores decently well. It leaves some really nicely balancing tiles, but I think Matthew needs to play a few more off, given that he has a lead and wants to empty the bag as soon as possible.
I don't hate dunces and main and adus, to be honest with you.
I'm not so sure about, the S does get some more points here. I think it'd be a good idea to hold on to it a bit longer.
So then just dunce, saving
Yeah.
S, do you? Yeah. He's just going to go chunt.
Chunted, yeah. So he's trying to burn through tiles. Good idea. Ideally drawing the other blank to all but put the nail in the coffin if he did have it at that point. Jesse will attempt to do the same on this next turn.
By doing what he just did, he blocked the bingos through the H and the G. He blocked bingos to the I below Indow, and forcing an 8 with the A in the 5th place on top of the I in Indow. It allows for bingos through the T, which are pretty harmless. They won't score a lot.
The problem here is that chunted is actually not a word.
Is he on hold? He's on hold.
So this is pretty key here. I think Jesse's challenging.
Chunt isn't even a word. It's coming off.
Chunted is being challenged. Matthew will take the play off the board. Or pardon me, Jesse will take the play off the board.
I wonder if it's CSW, because it
The problem, as someone has pointed out, is that chunter is a verb.
the chunter I know.
Yeah.
So chunt is not good in either dictionary. Chunter, I thought the R was coming down when he started putting down chunt. All right, so a very good challenge. So by doing so, Matthew has now level the playing field somewhat in terms of errors made in this game. Both players nervous, need we say.
Jesse's probably still going to look at a dial as he had set up in his rack, making sure that he doesn't give anything too big back.
Do you think he'll play it to main?
Well, it's...
He will be slotting an A over a triple letter, and he has seen Matthew's tiles, and he can see that he doesn't have anything other than the D that can go underneath that A to score points.
I'm not so sure it's desperate enough yet, but he could consider AB and A dial down on the right side. But I don't know if that's so necessary yet.
Well, if he does A dial, then nothing in Matthew's rack has shown that he can hook the L in A dial to go down to the right. So I think that might be a good play.
So he's playing A dial on the right, being very bold.
Matthew helped him make that decision because he knows 6 out of 7 of Matthew's tiles.
And as Brian Capoletto has pointed out in the chat, it is a lot easier playing from our chairs, certainly, and he would know, as someone who's been in extremely high-pressure situations over and over. It's a good point, Brian. When you have this kind of money on the line and you've put so many hours of work and studying words, positions, anagrams, it's not as easy when you're sitting there as it is for us with knowledge of both racks.
22 points for A dial, giving Jesse 206 points. It might force Matthew to play dust to block the spot. Matthew would love to be able to play the C somewhere first so he could block the whole lane.
Brian is being very kind here, saying that he's made bigger mistakes on camera than that. It's nice for us, at least I'll speak for myself as a mere mortal, to see the best of the game talking about
absolutely.
Making mistakes.
Oh my God, we all do it. None of our comments here are meant to criticize at all. It's very simple for us to just point out when not only are we not playing, but we have computers in front of us to help us. And I know the players know that we're not at all criticizing them. Our job is to point out the best plays.
Wow, and Matthew has picked a fantastic rack.
An actor is the bingo on that rack.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to play that, but let's see what else he can play.
I would say on Jesse's next turn, he might be tempted to play Poilu through the Isle and A dials.
For those who can't remember what Jesse had, his rack is AIILOPU. Yes, he can play Poilu, for sure. I would probably play it through the L in A dials to save a vowel. He's looking at Huipil as well. That word just keeps coming up over and over again this tournament. I think Huipil is actually a little stronger. But it will give Matthew an actor very easily. Yeah. So I think we might be seeing the deciding turn of the tournament right now with an actor off the L in Huipil. Through the P he has Portance and co-parent, but they don't play.
So So Matthew just needs to play an actor, really, and that will be GG. Carotene on the bottom as well.
The one thing I want to say about that, however, yeah, I would actually play it off the PIL onto the right, because an actor, besides taking an S, takes a Y, and there are still 2 Ys unseen, and that would be a huge play to play enactory and the Y to the triple letter, the Y doubling. So I would play Huipil to the right of PIL. And that's what he's doing.
So an actor comes down here. Jesse's not going to be happy to see that because he knows it's going to take a miracle at this point to overcome this deficit, especially with the junk he has.
They score the same. Yeah. So 73 points will give him a score of 782. 382, jeez.
Oh, and Matthew's pulled the other blank, yeah. So,
well, just a second.
He's got a clunky rack.
But he can afford to have one.
But he has lots of time to clear that up, so, in advance, we're just going to say, well played both players, and we may well have a Canadian champion here.
We might. It seems likely. Let's see what happens. The computer liked both Huipil and Poilieu as their first 2 choices. And of course an actor at F6 is the best. He also had Carotene. To the E over dust if he did not have an actor. So 382 to 228, we have a correct score.
As an all-Canadian panel here, we are, of course, very happy that it's going to be coming home for this one.
I live in Ontario, so yeah.
But
Matthew lives in Ontario, too.
Obviously, as Jesse Day, as my namesake, I'm a little sad for him. But he's very likely going to win one of these someday. Today doesn't seem to be that day, but it's just a matter of time.
It's just a matter of when. And good on Matthew. He's, he played both these guys. I think play Collins as well. Right?
Matthew actually played Worlds once and hasn't played since. But Jesse does play both books.
I see. I was with Matthew at the World Championships in Prague in 2013-14. He's a very serious player. He's a very committed and caring player. Spends a lot of time thinking about the game, studying, practicing. A deserving champion.
Matthew's counting, perhaps considering an exchange, just to really make sure.
Let's see how many tiles are left. There are 18 tiles, more than 18 tiles. 18 and 14 are 32. Yeah, 18 tiles left. Plenty to pass. And in fact, I think there's only one R on the board, so he'd do well to pass that as well. Normally I like to keep, let's say, RS blank, but with 4 unseen, I would definitely pass that in. Now, Jesse has Kiva. He's obviously going to have to play extremely volatile Scrabble now. He might be looking at Kiva off the IS in Diffie in order to open up a triple. Even though he does not, yeah, there we go. He doesn't have the S on his rack, but he has to play as if he's going to pick it. He has no choice but to open up the board. The unfortunate thing about playing that A is that it goes in front of the LA from Huipil and an actor. There's only one A unseen, and he would have loved to have kept that A in order to hook the LA in front. Oh, dear. Okay.
So Jesse's continuing to struggle to keep things balanced.
kind of hard to look at the computer now, again, about what to play. It had suggested Viator, V-I-A-T-O-R, to the R in an actor. There's a lot going for that. It scores points, and it really busts open the board.
Both players have lots of time in this game, about 7.5 minutes for Jesse and 9 for Matthew.
Matthew's looking to possibly play one of Jags, Jigs, or Jogs, or Jogs, Jogs or Jugs, underneath Kiva. There is another S left. I think that's a pretty good use of his blank. He'd probably not want to do that because there's a beautiful O with a double word score next to it under with an actor. But
so Matthew's choosing to play through his rack
for 45 points. Giving him a score of 437 points. And with an almost 200-point lead and nothing doing on Jesse's rack.
Probably something like Rudy and Actory. I don't know. There's not really much of a point trying to fish here. You might as well just score.
I like that. I've imagined this moment and what Matthew is not showing. He's just sitting there chewing his gum. But I know I'd be sitting there thinking, oh, God, I've won this thing. I can't believe it. But he's totally focused on the game. But there doesn't seem to be any possible way for Jesse to come back. And yes, to all the Scrabble players out there, we know that's obvious.
Eric Tran is in the chat. Hi, Eric. He has suggested just playing YOLO, because why not?
Mm-hmm. Put it down and pick it back up just to have a laugh.
A little bit of Packhorn style there. But he's got Rudy lined up. Clearly has seen an Actory.
Best word on Matthew's rack right now is twerp. Not that there's anywhere to play it. I should point out to you that just as icing on the cake, Matt has the I in Big Head, the I in Endow, and the I in Audiles, and the I in Kivas with a double letter next to it for him to play his cue. So he's under absolutely no obligation to pass whatsoever. He will play that cue, I promise you that. But odd that he would be getting it every single game. When QI was allowed into Scrabble, I remember I was at the first tournament it was allowed at was one of the Dallas tournaments. The Dallas Open. And it was like a weight was lifted off my shoulder. Going into the end games, I realized I no longer had the burden of worrying about being stuck with a cue nearly as often. So we are getting Rudy.
Rudy and an Actory. Good play here.
28 points, so 278 for Jesse. Now Matthew could get twerp down there, but I think we're going to see something other than that. Let's see if we can determine how many tiles are left in the bag. Okay, so there's no passing happening now anyway. $36 points for Wept, giving him 473. So it seems likely he's going to win this last game with an over 500 score. A flourish finish. Oh, that's a sad score for a final.
Jesse is smiling, checking the bag. I'm pretty sure he's aware that this is all done.
So I believe there's one tile left in the bag.
If there's 15
I think
there,
a B.
that means one. Yeah.
I think it's a B. Redeploys. After you've been studying the 7s and 8s for as long as I have, all you start seeing are 9s. You need something to tickle your fancy.
Jesse does have a non-go of Erosely as well.
And the only 8 with that is Yodelers. If you're hearing any noise in the background, that's the sound of the tournament being torn down, as the other 350 players have already left the tournament room, their tournament having ended a couple of games ago. You see the integrity of these players. Jesse clearly knows that he's lost the tournament, and yet he's still taking his time to ensure he makes the best play. Because at the end of the day, that's really all we really want to do, is always just make the best play.
And at this point, for both players, that's all they have left to do, really, because this outcome has been decided for sure.
Matthew, I believe, is short on time. You see that he's inverted his tiles. That's something that somebody does when they're short on time and they just want to slap down the tiles upside down. They're not even going to wait. So he's going to play Qua through the U in Lucomas. The reason why they do it upside down is that it would take a couple of seconds to turn the board around in their direction. They don't even want to waste time to do that. So you'll see people put their tiles upside down like that to play upside down with the board in the direction of his opponent, so that he could save a couple of seconds on his clock. That's a nice piece of Scrabble trivia, eh?
Mm-hmm.
There's a fun word on Matthew's rack as well, and it's actually in order. You can play BRR to denote coldness, brr, and then you could stick another R on it. So actually, the BRRR on his rack is an acceptable Scrabble word. Seems that Jesse might have more time than Matthew does once again. But every time Jesse opened up the board, Matthew had a response. He played odd dial. Matthew had the S for dust. He played Kiva. Matthew had the blank and an S and a high-scoring tile. Those are difficult games to play, but they happen all the time.
So Rely, as was suggested earlier, is the play that Jesse goes for. It's a nice play.
31 points. To give him 310, and here comes Qua for 32. To give him 95.
And Jesse's just smiling, which is really, all he can do at this point.
He is such a laid-back guy.
Jesse has 10 seconds left on his clock, and Matt has 7.5 minutes.
So it turns out that Matthew wasn't short on time, simply being sportsmanlike and not pretending to spend a lot of time on his turn.
So this one is over. With that, we have a new national champion. He hails from, or not national, pardon me, North American champion. He hails from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, Matthew Tunnicliffe, your 2015 champion. Congratulations. I'm going to say a well-played series here in general. Just a few unfortunate mistakes that
oh my goodness,
decided the games, unfortunately, in this point, or certainly made a huge momentum swing.
It's very rare to watch a tournament where somebody doesn't make, certainly a mistake per game, if not a significant one. And despite these being some of the best players at the tournament, they're going to make mistakes, and that's fine. You can't make the best. If we all made the best turn every time, we'd be computers.
Yes, and sometimes even the computers don't get to make the best move compared to at least one or two other players that we know of.
Oh, look at him now. He's finally smiling. He's turned red. There we go, Sherry. Our intrepid internet reporter is giving him a nice hug.
Matthew's showing some emotion finally here. He's kept it very calm and collected. And Jesse, of course, is disappointed, but still keeping a fairly mild-mannered attitude here.
Now, you'll see them